What's up, Airsofters? Welcome to the Not So Round Tables, episode 155. For those of you who don't think that we actually have our masks on when we're not filming, we actually do. We take this very seriously. But George and I have both been tested. We're both free and clear, so we're going to remove our masks so you can see what we're saying.
I can assure you that we're taking like every COVID precaution we can take at Evike.com.
Yeah.
We're tested regularly when we're here at the building.
Yeah.
We have a lot of precautions in place to prevent spread.
Yeah.
And
especially for our guys that are working around the clock to make sure that things go out.
Yeah. So it's very important to us. So we really appreciate you guys understanding that we are taking this very seriously. And even when we're talking here, we are very far apart, at least 6 feet apart,
so far.
No problem. And we're only talking to you, the viewer, to our cameras, to our individual cameras this time.
So we're only spitting.
So
towards
we're
our
spitting,
cameras.
like especially me, we're not spitting at each other, we're spitting at you behind a camera safely.
If you're unfamiliar with how the Not So Round Table works, if you watched the previous episode, episode 154, we posited you with some questions and invited you to ask them in the comments section. Those have been collected and put into our helms of reasoning. We have two because we're not at the same table.
And what we'll do is when we bring the show back regularly, there's a truck, but really quick, when we bring the show back regularly, you guys are gonna have to decide what helmet we use.
I kind of like the World War II helmet better. Except it's not a World War II helmet, is it?
No, I don't think so. I bought this at bought this at a surplus store in like 1990 something.
Oh wow. Okay.
So probably my guess would be probably a Korean War leftover.
Yeah, I mean, it's got Kevlar in it, right? Like that's.
Well, no, it's just early versions of something. I don't know what it is.
Something bullet resistant.
Somebody's going to tell me what this inner lining is. I have no idea.
All right.
So.
Well, getting right into it. If we don't get to your question in this episode, don't worry. We will get to it. The trick is you've got to re-ask it because we're going to throw out the questions every episode, so we get new questions every time. So if you don't get your question answered in this episode, post it in the comment section. We'll get to it next time. George, you want to start us off?
Sure. Of course, my questions get lost with the inner lining, so maybe it's not as an efficient of a package. All right, this comes from Mr. Fallout 911 from last episode. Why isn't era-based games common? The thought of doing a Western or World War II seems a lot more interesting to replay battles in history. It's a very good point. There's definitely, I would say, the airsoft guns are definitely available.
Yeah. And more so now than ever before.
Yeah, more so than ever before to portray even different factions or different countries during that time frame. I would also say that it is probably a little expensive to do full, era history, somewhat correct. I'm not going to say complete.
For the loadout, right?
Like loadouts are pretty hard to come by, or not hard to come by, but they're expensive if you want to do it in a way that is really authentic. So that could be a hindrance. Honestly, I would say, you know what? Probably the biggest hindrance is people aren't making the games.
I think they're afraid of attendance.
I know that Milsim West did a World War II game at Hill 559. I don't know how the attendance was, but I know that some people had a really good time. So I think it's a question of having an organizer or several organizers really do it and maybe be less strict about the rules in terms of the clothing. I think would really help. I know one of the things that when Line Claws was trying to do the Hack Bow series, they were a little too strict on the weapons a little bit,
and costumes
a little bit. Right, should be allowed. For the Vietnam era, even if it had Picatinny rails, I think it'd be reasonably okay.
Well, the stricter you are, like you said, the less attendance you'll get, and that lack of attendance turns game promoters off from making those events. Yeah. So a call we're going to put out then to event promoters and event creators, hey, apparently airsofters want more historical games. You've got the weapons platforms available and the costumes available to do them. We just need you guys to make the games so that people can sign up. And don't be turned off by low attendance, just make them smaller games.
Make them, if you're worried about low attendance, then just charge more, to be honest
with you.
That's
true.
To make up for it.
All right, what do we got next?
People who want to do it are dedicated enough to do it.
All right, this question comes from Matthew Shaman from last episode. I've always been really curious, why is it so hard to find what parts are compatible with your airsoft gun? I mean, unless you bought like an Avalon or something, I just feel like it's really hard to find good quality aftermarket parts that work the best.
Work the best or work the best together? You know, is a really good question.
So here's what's interesting. Like, just like the automotive industry, all cars run on tires and wheels, but different brands may make the same diameter wheel, but they have a different bolt pattern. And Airsoft is much the same way. We may all, have a standard in most guns of like a version 2 or version 3 gearbox, but different brands decide on how to accomplish those things using slightly different tolerances. And while generally speaking, most aftermarket parts fit within that range of compatibility, much like many other hobbies that are technical, like Airsoft. There is some custom fitting and some fine tuning that kind of comes along with that. I would argue that's part of the fun, that discovery of modifying parts, as opposed to just slapping them in and not really getting involved in the inner workings of Airsoft.
Yeah, maybe the complaint is kind of, I mean, like the car reference is a great one. Even car batteries, not every car battery is the same.
Yeah.
An SUV car battery may be different than a car battery that's for like a 4-door sedan.
Yeah.
So, that is a very good, and even tires are different from car to car. Another good example, maybe what they're referencing is, with real firearms, yes, there's a lot of compatibility issues are resolved by having a specific spec.
That's true.
The main reason that never really happened in Airsoft is no one really
decided on an exact spec.
No one created an exact spec.
I think the only unified spec is like negative 14 millimeter threads. And even some brands can't get that right.
Yeah. Like think of, not all guns have Dean connectors.
Yeah.
Not all guns have the same counterclockwise or clock. That's why we have so many flash hiders on the market that are like the same but different.
Yeah, you have a brand come out of nowhere and they're like, we're going to make this 16 mil. It's like, why? What are you doing? Why are you doing that? Yeah.
That's a very good question though. This is from call sign Cockroach.
Nice.
How do you tell the difference between a large Tamiya and a mini small Tamiya?
That's an excellent question. So I put this in because I was envisioning, Mason, if you can go ahead and put up an image of both of them side by side, right here between George and I. George, can you tell the difference?
Well, it's not right here, so no, I can't.
Me neither. If we look at a picture and
I would have to
side
see
by
one
side,
like of a size comparison of what you could compare it to.
Right.
Like a quarter or something that's like everyday use.
In relation to the battery.
I'm trying to think
itself.
off the top of my head without seeing one in front of me right now. I would say that if the length of the Tamiya connector is the size of a quarter or around the size of a quarter, if you put them next to each other and the length of it is the same, it is a large Tamiya.
But if someone's browsing online and they just see a picture of a battery connector, it's almost impossible to tell.
Maybe unless you're looking at the battery.
Yeah.
Maybe. But then again, you could take like these huge brick batteries of the past,
right.
put them next to like an 8.4 volt, and they can look very similar as well. So it's a very tough question. Probably the easiest thing to do is actually to go off the wiring.
Well, but then if you use thicker gauge wiring, I went through that too. I will say I have a surefire way how you can avoid that completely.
Oh, really?
With this. It's called a Dean's or Airsoft T-plug. Hopefully Mason put it here, not over here. That's your only surefire way never to have to deal with this Tamiya conundrum.
Tamiya connectors are not very good for Airsoft.
No, I mean they've been around for
been around for a while.
Years
they
now?
work, but like any chance that if you ever get on the Dean train,
yeah,
all my guns are Dean.
Yeah.
All my batteries are Dean.
Yeah.
I only buy Dean.
Yeah.
That's it. Or Airsoft T-plug or whatever.
We would not recommend it to you if it wasn't better.
Yes.
Trust us. We're experts.
It's easier to. Anyway.
not experts.
And you never really can confuse a mini Dean with a Dean.
No. Especially because where do you find a mini Dean?
Yeah, true.
Except for some random G&P thing that they
Not
came
anymore.
out. Yeah, exactly.
Not anymore.
We don't have to deal with that. All right. Next up, we've got a two-parter here, okay? I threw in two comments that were on the same, kind of on the same track. Okay, first one is from Stephen Marek. What are your thoughts on loud music during games? Personally, I don't like playing with music in the background. So let's answer that one first. I think music during games in like fields that like want to immerse you in like the battlefield.
Battle Lab plays music during the games.
Yeah. Now
they've always done that with Inside as well.
Right. Now, I guess I kind of like separate out like a soundtrack of like helicopters flying overhead. Balahak does, I think, sometimes like has like gunfire in the background and helicopters flying over, and I think that's really cool. Like sound effects to kind of get you into the game.
Yeah.
I will say though, music or sound effects, aside, if it's too loud that you can't hear other players on the field, that kind of ruins the game for me. So I like that it's there for like, immersing you in the game, but I don't like when it's so loud that you can't hear what's going on the field and you can't hear people shooting at you. What do you think?
I agree with that. I do think that would I prefer music or no music in an indoor arena? I would actually probably go with music, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Because, I don't know, I'm just thinking of just like a whistle going and then everybody's charging each other and you just hear gun sounds. Like,
yeah, and then Fortunate Son comes on?
No, I don't know. It just sounds more interesting.
Yeah.
And I think about it this way. If you look at getting other airsofters into things like newer, let's say you get somebody who's never played airsoft into it before, and if they get in that and they hear like a siren and they hear good music start going off and then everybody runs, that's probably gonna make them have a better time.
Yeah.
Believe it or not.
Yeah,
than if it's just like you hear a whistle blow and you hear shooting.
Yeah, that's true. So as a follow-up to that, this follow-up question from somebody else, from Jesus Aguilar, asked, okay, now let's assume that the field isn't playing music, okay? There's no music on the field.
Okay.
Is it okay to listen to music, podcasts, etc., during an airsoft game like a MilSim event or at a pickup game? Personally, to listen to music if the field isn't playing it.
Yeah, sure, I guess. But I wouldn't listen to a podcast personally. I would want to actually, if I'm listening to a podcast, I want to be able to listen to it. I'm not going to be listening to it and playing Airsoft.
You're listening to the Joe Rogan Experience, like as you're
when I listen to podcasts, I listen, like I wouldn't even play heavily involved video games.
Yeah.
When I'm listening to a podcast, I want to be able to give that podcast a lot of focus versus just listening to it as background noise. I don't, that's just my own personal opinion. I don't listen to podcasts while I'm writing something.
Right, that's
or
true.
Trying to read something.
Yeah.
That doesn't work out very well.
I can't concentrate. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, okay, so so I break it down into like two ways you could be listening to music on a personal level. Either you've got a speaker, and that just seems tactically like a bad idea because people are going to hear you coming. So you may not want to do that. And then alternatively, you could be listening with earbuds. And I think that's completely fine. However, know that you're diminishing your situational awareness. And because you got something going on in your ears, you're not going to hear somebody coming around the corner, or you might not hear a ref
you need to be telling absolutely you the rules certain of what you're able to do. And I have a great example for this. I love listening to music while I ski.
Okay.
I went skiing recently when I visited home. I actually forgot my headphones, so I had like my speaker in my backpack. And one of the thing is though, when I ski, because of how long I've been doing it, when I'm listening to music, I'm very aware visually of what's happening while I'm skiing, so I can keep an eye out for things, other skiers, other snowboarders or people out there. But like I would.
But you also don't have someone trying to communicate with you while you're
it's an individual thing, but I'm also a pretty advanced skier versus if I was a beginner, I don't know if that'd be a good thing because I can't hear other people coming behind me if I'm going really slow. I can't hear other people to my right or left. I have to actually be looking. But like, unless I'm a really good at that, really understanding of all of that stuff, like I'm really good on my trigger discipline or what have you. I mean, like what happens if you're shooting a barricade and someone's yelling, dead man coming out, walks right in front of you and you just hit him right in the face. That is your fault because you did not hear him because you were listening to music too loud.
I didn't even think about that.
So,
that's a very good point.
I mean, it all comes down to your awareness of how you can do something safely. I think it's the most important thing. I wouldn't listen to it outdoors. I don't listen to music while I'm hiking in California. We have these things called rattlesnakes, and they can bite you. Things. Yeah, you can't hear. I can't hear if I'm walking down a path, just like stomping to music.
Yeah.
And I'm not visually there, and I get bit by a snake. That's my own fault.
Well, yeah.
Because the snake's trying to warn me. Usually, that's my fault. That's just my thoughts. I think it's a safety issue.
All right. What do we got next?
I went on way too long on that.
No. I think that's valid because we see a lot of people listening to music on the field. So Maybe
I
the
wouldn't,
people want to know.
in a team thing, I wouldn't listen to music.
Yeah.
Like I said, I do when I ski. I love to do it when I ski, but also I am very confident in my abilities to visually assess while I'm skiing.
Right.
And and especially certain, like if I'm free terrain, I will not listen to music while I'm doing free terrain because that's very important for me to have sound.
Got it.
But I don't do free terrain anymore. I'm too fat. So LT Xiong, Xiong. I'm sorry, my pronunciation is terrible. Xiong. What tools should I buy to start teching on guns? Great question.
Yeah, because there are a million that you might be tempted
to
buy.
I'll go into a tool, and then you go into a tool,
Sure.
and then we can kind of see if there's anything else. One of the most valuable tools I think to have is a good set of Allen wrenches that are used like a screwdriver, not the L-shaped.
Not the L-shaped.
Yeah, having
Allen key.
Yeah, having great sets of a bunch of different Allens to be able to remove screws very quickly is probably one of the most useful tools.
And the better quality the hex wrench is, the much less likely you're going to be to strip your screws out because they'll fit the screw head size correctly, which means you won't be replacing screws or be unable to do your tech work. That's an excellent example.
It's probably like the first thing on everybody's list.
Yeah. I mean, you can get by with mostly that for teching. Good quality set of Allens.
I have more if you need.
Maybe something that you wouldn't necessarily think about right out of the gate is, have a bottle of silicone spray and a bottle of silicone oil, because you will always run into a situation where something can be lubricated, and depending on the thickness of the lubrication that you need, either one of those are indispensable when it comes to doing any sort of tech work.
I got a few more that I'll just briefly go over that I think are useful for any AEG tech, especially if you're working on M4s. The first one would be to get a very long Phillips screwdriver that can go all the way down the buffer tube, so you can do the TM buffer tubes really, really easily. That's one tool I would say is a definite need.
Unless you've got a SEMA QBS, and then you don't need that.
Unless you have a SEMA QBS or more companies starting to do those kind of things, that'd be great. The other thing would be if sometimes you can find like little pick, like a little dental pick, and then you use those to do the springs on the inside. Very, very, very useful to align things.
Yeah. You could also maybe a set of pin punches.
Punches are good, a mallet's good.
Yeah. Yeah, a nylon mallet. Don't use a hammer on a gearbox.
Don't use, actually, for Airsoft, I don't think there's ever a use for a hammer. You can do everything with a mallet.
Unless you really don't like your gun.
Unless you really don't like your gun.
And you want it gone.
Yeah.
Then you use it.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, like the basic screwdrivers.
Yeah.
You can do a lot with, an AR wrench you guess you need.
Yeah,
sort
I mean,
of,
it can
but
be
you don't
useful
need an expensive one.
for handguard installation and buffer tube installation, but beyond that.
You really only need it in Airsoft for buffer tubes most of the time.
Yeah.
No, most people don't use handguards anymore.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, hopefully that gets you started.
Yeah, that gets you started.
Yeah.
That can at least get you into the gearbox.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I don't want to get into like the soldering stuff to do the whole.
Yeah, don't.
Yeah.
Don't
All right.
About that stuff.
What do you think? 2 more questions?
A few more. Yeah. Let's see where we're at.
All right. This one's from Kenneth Freeman. As a player, how can you communicate effectively to your local field that the games are feeling stale? Keeping in mind that outside California, a lot of us only have the option of 1 or maybe 2 fields local to us. I thought that was a really interesting question because oftentimes you're limited to the style of game that the field is running.
Yeah, I think it comes down to a lot of factors, and some of those factors are in your control. Some of those factors are out of your control.
So I think one thing that fields can do is, even as somebody who designs games or runs a field, it can feel stale even for your refs after a while to do the same games over and over. And one of the ways you can get around having to kind of come up with games yourself is to have a suggestion box. So if if you're a field and you want some new game types, have a suggestion box where players can come up with ideas for games that might be worth doing. And then as a player, try and come up with a game idea yourself with, a set of rules or maybe some way that you'd like to play it, and communicate with a ref that you'd like to try it. And if it's a small enough day or light enough day in terms of player base, they might be willing to let you to try that out. Especially, again, because most refs are probably bored from doing the same games day in and day out. So simply making a suggestion, in a polite way, instead of criticizing, the games that they're running.
Not to say this game stinks or whatever.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Say, hey,
I wouldn't
can we try
approach it from.
new? Or, like what do you hopefully, and the other factor that I say is out of your control is hopefully the field or the staff are very open-minded to the criticism. Very important to be like, a critique versus a criticism or a bashing. It's very important to just be very mindful of, maybe they like a scenario, the ref likes it a lot, maybe everybody else doesn't, but he's very attached to it, you never know.
Yeah, you don't want to lead off with like, this is trash.
Yeah.
I've got a better idea.
Just as long as you tactfully ask the question, I think you can achieve goals. And hopefully, all fields, in my opinion, should be open-minded to this.
Yeah. Again, why would you not want more game types?
Yeah.
Like, it's just more fun. Anyway.
Yeah.
All right, what do you got?
What do I got? This is from German Torovich. Hey, Matt. It's only to you. I was wondering if you could ship my gun bought from Evike back to Evike so I get upgraded parts bought from Evike.com. I hope that made sense. I'm reading it as it sounds.
I wonder why that was directed. So I don't really.
I was wondering if I could ship my gun bought from Evike back to Evike to get upgraded parts bought from Evike. The answer is yes.
Yes.
Just contact our support at Evike.com,
and
then you can basically build the teching package that you need and get upgrade parts installed or anything like that, and our tech team can take care of it. You'll ship it back here, go into our system.
Yeah.
Once it's done, it gets shipped back to you.
Yeah. I will say, while we do have a system set up for you to send back your existing rifle to get teched by our wonderful tech department, if you're planning on buying a new product, you can always organize getting tech work done before it's sent to you, so you don't have to do the back and forth and wait on shipping both ways. So if you're interested in having something already upgraded, something like an Evike Performance Shop build, you can purchase that already done, or if you have some specific ideas of how you'd like something upgraded to your personal taste, you can always, again, contact support at Evike.com and they can get that underway for you.
Let's maybe answer one more question, sir.
You want to do one more?
Let's do one more.
All right, guys, last question on episode 155 of the Not So Round Tables. This one's by PewD Space Pie. Not PewDiePie. This one's by PewD Space Pie. What do you think about Airsoft zombie events? Do you think there could be a field made specifically for those type of events? I love zombie games.
Zombie games, I know in California, specifically Southern California, a lot of the field owners have done a very good job of doing zombie-specific events. Yeah. I'm thinking of Battle Lab. They haven't done one yet, but back in the day when they're at Old Field, they used to do a lot of them that were really fun. Code Red, Airsoft down also was pretty good for doing zombie games. Yeah. So I think could there be a specific field or a specific theme for
like
doing
that's all they do?
It'd be great. Yeah, sure.
It's like if an escape room, but just zombie games.
If somebody could invest into making it that experience, actually, you might even be able to attract. I think there are some companies who are trying to using Airsoft
in Vegas, right?
In like Vegas or something like that, to have experiences for the average people, and they're just using Airsoft as the tool.
I will say here's your limitation, right? In order to have a successful zombie game, you got to have zombies. And zombies require volunteers. And as fun as it is for you to run that zombie game for 8 minutes at a time, shooting at zombies, whoever's playing the zombies is running that 8-minute game all day and getting lit up all day long. So finding volunteers that are willing to do that can be a bit of a struggle. The one thing that I think made some of the zombie games that we used to sponsor as successful as they were is we sponsored the guns for the event. So they were all lower power AEGs. They were all 200 FPS.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, it's a zombie. Their job is to call the hit and die. Yeah. You don't have to worry about them shrugging the hit. And it makes their experience as a volunteer a lot less painful getting lit up all day with 200 FPS as opposed to 350 or 400. I guess the drawback to that is, I know if it was me going into the game, I would love to use my own gun. Wow. So how do you,
it's a balance for that, I agree. Right. But that is what helps the zombies out the best. And then another thing that we did was we purposely made the flashlights darker.
Oh, they were dimmed.
I don't know. I
Did
think
we cover the
you covered the lens,
lens
so
cap?
it would be really dark.
Yeah.
And bright lights everywhere. It
Yeah.
doesn't look as good, but when you do it dark, it's like you get a more.
You want the fear.
You want the
fear.
fear.
Yeah.
That's the fun of it.
Because if you think about it, if zombies really happened, we would not have a tactical advantage with all of the brightest flashlights and the hottest shooting. Well, we might, but like most people in movies don't have all.
Everybody's got OKWs. It's like, yeah, I can see you from a mile away.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna close it on that, and thank you guys for tuning into episode 155. It's a long show in terms of how long it's been on the air, so we appreciate you guys. Keep asking those questions in the comments section below. We read them. We try as best we can to put your, we will be. So if your question was not answered and you want it answered, just comment again below, and we'll get to it.
Repeat your
eventually.
question.
Yeah, repeat your question. Yeah. We will get to it, and we'll keep the show going.
Yeah, and it's March, so hopefully in a couple more months, George and I can be sitting next to each other.
In the studio would be nice.
In the studio, where we don't have to worry about this light difference that you guys are all, I'm sure, bothered by. Anyway.
Yeah, thanks for bearing with us, and have a good one.
See you guys later. Just a quick shout out to those airsofters that asked a question that didn't get it answered. Thanks guys for posting these up. If we didn't answer your question, comment it again and we'll get to it next episode.